Hey everybody, this is Barry Mankin here with the Holistic Home Health Podcast. We're here in Nashville, Tennessee on our second series here with IAQ Tennessee and TN Mold Inspectors, Cody and Ryan. Thank you so much for being with us again.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
It's amazing we have the same clothes from the last time. Wow. What's it been, like a month?
Well, my wife dresses me, so this is my Wednesday wear. So
right, there you go.
I just wear the same thing every day. I'm a cartoon character.
Kind of like that, what was that, olive oil that did that every day? Popeye would go in there, it's all the same. Let's pick that up.
Doug Funny.
Okay, so we had a great time last episode talking about general things in the industry. A lot of this is focused on mold so far, just because, again, it's prevalent. There's so many things we could talk about with other contaminants, but it's kind of the hot topic of the day. So why don't we talk about, Ryan, go over a situation where we have to define, what level of remediation maybe needs to happen and how we get there.
Yeah, so there's standards that we go off of, and so that creates some of that tension. But really, I mean, if we cut everything back and go down to what the standards are, if we're doing a surface sample, like Cody mentioned in the last episode, if it comes back and it's not condition 1, which is normal fungal ecology, if it's condition 2 or condition 3, that's crossed the line to where we can say, hey, there's a problem here and remediation needs to occur if it's on a building material that's impacted, not a non-porous surface. As far as other standards that I use, and I'm sure you guys use as well, is there visible mold, right? So sometimes people don't want to test, but I mean, is there visible mold? We may go through a house and we find mold, or we may not find mold. So those are some of the thresholds that we go through with that. When we do air samples, are there elevated counts compared to the outdoor or compared to the ranges that we often go by? Are there elevated individual mold genuses within a sample, an air sample as well? So there's various different reasons that you call it a pass-fail or considered a clean home or one that may need some remediation. So there's standards that we go by, and oftentimes there could be a tension sometimes with the client where they're like, hey, I think that there is a problem. Maybe if your standards aren't met. And so that's some communication with us being business owners, letting them know that we go off of these standards and we use those as scientifically based standards.
Yeah. And how many times do we just have to tell somebody to clean their house?
Yeah, and that's often the case because dust harbors mold. Yeah, and so that's a
it's a hard thing to say.
It's a hard one. Yeah.
So just a question for you: do you ever deviate or be flexible with your standards depending on like the client's sensitivities?
Possibly so, but how would you define that? Or give me an example, because I'm sure there's flexibility. As we mentioned, we're forming a hypothesis, so it's not this hard line all the time. But what type of example?
I would say like a immunocompromised individual who has a known allergy for a specific genus or species of mold. And I may be more inclined, like, let's just say, in our air samples or surface samples, down to the genus level, it's going to lump Aspergillus and penicillin together, but they may have a penicillin allergy.
Yep.
And they may be more inclined to be sensitive to that. So I may rein in the upper end of what would be more acceptable and maybe narrow that down a little bit for that home in particular. And then may give better ideas on how to maintain lower mold levels inside.
Yeah, no, and that's the exact type of scenario where, there's a little bit of flexibility on that. Yeah, so you definitely, so we talked last episode, weigh out what the customer situation is, because as you guys know, most people don't have sensitivities, but it's that 10% of the population where it's definitely going to impact them, whereas 90% of the population may not be impacted.
Right,
so those situations you have to deal with specially.
Well, and I think that's why, because there is a little bit of flexibility in that, why there are no set standards by the EPA or any governing body with like what should we see in mold samples, because everybody has a specific sensitivity.
Well, and on all the environments, like you go out west as opposed to
completely
coming here,
different.
or you go up north. I mean, it's all over the map. So I mean, it's
Right.
hard for them. Yeah, I mean, you have to do that by individual. It's sometimes in between states,
Right.
You know,
Regions,
for different
yeah.
climates. You know,
Definitely.
so that's huge part of it too. Yeah.
True.
You alluded to the medical side. That whole tension there. We do the same thing, by the way, and say okay, and that's our interpretation of it, and we are the authority in it, right?
Sure.
So at some point, that action has to happen because we say it needs to happen. Now, what we'll define in that report is to say, due to the sensitive natures of the client or due to the health compromise, we're recommending this. If it's just obvious, we're just going to recommend it.
Yeah.
But if we're making an exception, we're going to say that's the exception, and that's what they need.
Right.
So we may put that verbiage in the narrative, but I think that's us protecting our clients and saying, hey, they need more of a bubble.
Well, and we're the unbiased opinion.
Correct.
And so we're supposed to just give them the facts and our professional opinion on what these lab results say. And there's so much information you can get from the lab results, you know, the hyphal fragment, you know, loads
Oh, yeah.
in the samples. I mean, that indicates that there's actual mold structures at the property that are breaking loose, that have been disturbed.
Or
And-
have been disturbed, yes,
Yeah.
from prior remediation.
Sure. Yeah. Or fruiting bodies being present. You know, that's another indication that there's like a condition, you know, 3 or 2 environment that would be present. So there's so much information that the layman would not be able to pick up from, you know, reading or interpreting the results. And that's why
Yeast.
yeah, having
Big one, yeah.
having guys like ourselves that have been experienced in the industry, that have seen hundreds of, you know, or thousands of these, you know, results, and we have like a registry of these in our minds on like what we should expect to see.
Yeah.
It's very useful.
I can go through it. I'm like, boom, 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 boom. All right, go to the next one. Boom, 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 boom. Go, you know,
Yeah.
anymore because I mean we do it every day, right? And you were actually looking at labs, was it?
So I worked.
It was a lab in town, right?
Yeah, it was in Mount Juliet. It was
Yeah.
ESC when
Yeah.
I worked there.
So you were looking at those every day.
Yeah.
All day.
Yeah.
Man.
I don't miss it.
You
There,
don't?
there were no
You don't miss it?
there were no windows in the lab. I didn't know if it was daylight or dark. It was.
Did they give you coffee anyway?
So, yeah, that's about they fueled all of us on. It was just tons of
He
coffee.
comes out all red-eyed. And so again, this is where we go, like our history is so valuable. Coming from that perspective, you have such a specific look and you have a deeper knowledge of what it looks like on the back end. What we're interpreting, you were doing defining.
Yeah, well, and I think there's even more utility in, because I send my samples out to a nationally accredited laboratory.
sure,
because,
yeah.
So for the sake of being unbiased in our findings, and that's what we're all here to do. And so we're the unbiased third party coming in. We don't do any remediation. We also send our samples off to an unbiased laboratory because I develop relationships with my clients. I end up becoming friends with them or
Yep.
want the best for them. And so
Yep.
just because of that, if I were to do the analysis, inherently I would want the best for like maybe for something to be present or not to be present because of that. And
Yeah.
so keeping things out of my hands, everything is
Absolutely.
unbiased and it's just the facts.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So we dealt with standards and interpretation. This year, what have you guys, is there anything special that you've seen this year more than any other year that you've been in business? And I'm ponying this up because I've got something I want to address, and I want to see if you guys have anything on your end.
There's been some scenarios which I'm sure you guys have run into, but in powder rooms and bathrooms where around the exhaust vent fan, you've got mold growing on the ceiling. I've seen that. I don't know, it was because of all the rain early this year in the spring and the early summer, but I saw that so much midsummer, late summer. But I mean, it seemed to be more prevalent this year. How about for you guys? Was that
I saw that quite often, and I feel like it's a mixture of issues. Higher humidity inside, and then I'd use my thermal camera and look up at it, and I'd see heat radiating down from it. And it was
Exactly.
heat from the exterior
Yes.
coming in,
Yep.
mixing with the colder interior
Yeah.
air, and then condensing on those materials.
The backflow, yeah.
It was so wild to finally be able to pinpoint the source of it, and they need better dampers on those
The
exhausts.
exterior, yeah. So with that, kind of pinging off of that, so that is the best solution. Do you think that there's like additional insulation if it's like an attic space? I mean, so the dampers, possible insulation. Do you think that? I guess the fact that possibly the fan's not being used, so that heat is building up over the nights where it's 80 degrees outside, and so that backfills and kicks back in there. You got the AC vents in the floor possibly pushing up cold air, and you have the condensation. But so dampers and insulation, any other potential solutions?
Yeah. Dampers, insulation, a properly functioning fan. I personally love the switches that they change out to where it's like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, or what. Like, so it's foolproof.
Yep.
Because I know the wives get so mad when their husbands leave the fan on.
Oh gosh. Or they think that's the right thing to do.
Oh, right.
And they leave them all on.
Oh, and then
it's like, well, how much negative pressure you want on your house?
That's right.
How much Tennessee do you want coming in?
Yeah. And that's a topic I want to talk about, is negative pressure once we get to that.
We will, absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's huge. Absolutely. So this is where I'm going with this, because you guys are like right on track. It's just a different scenario. What I'm seeing is that, and I've looked this up, but there's been a trend. We're getting closer to dew point in these houses this year more than any other year, because we've had extended, prolonged heat and higher relative humidity outside this year more than most, and that's been tracked. And so what I'm finding is these interstitial wall cavities have been having more moisture than normal. And I just today was at a place, and it's like, okay, it's from this summer, and they have problems in the crawl. It's being drawn up. And now they had some initial weak spots in that was happening because they have a source down below and all that. But it's being held in the walls still. And that time of year is over. Theoretically, it would be just like a crawl space. It would, the temperature goes down, it dries up a little bit, but it's been hanging.
Yeah.
And literally, I was there today. I was like, I got my dry standard, boom, boom, boom. Hot spots are still there. It's just like, oh my goodness. Well, we got to, So the remediator wants to come in. It's like, I'm just going to start searching and hunting. I know there's going to be mold behind here because it's been wet, right? So moisture typically equals mold. But if we're getting to that dew point, it's been hanging on there for a while, whatever the source is, they have to start removing things. And that job could have legs.
Oh, yeah.
Like big time legs. So who knows? And you got a family that's living in a house, that needs to be defined. So, I mean, we're going to end up moisture mapping the whole place now. This time of year, moisture mapping, put the principles in place for isolating those pathways from underneath and getting that crawl space dealt with appropriately. Anything else could be, it could be brick, it could be a lot of different things, but I think there's multiple factors that it's allowing that to happen. But the point is, this year, what I have seen is we're getting to dew point more this year because the conditions have been just right for a long enough for a prolonged period of time that we've got more of these interstitial wall cavities or these vulnerable areas in these bathrooms where there's ventilation, where it can obviously come right in with that negative pressure and affect these weak spots in the home.
Well, I think it's that, and then it's caused the HVAC system work on
Can't
overdrive, trying to pull that moisture out. And generally speaking, the HVAC system should be able to manage the humidity levels inside. You should not have to supplement with a dehumidifier, except for this time of year, when it's temperate outside and your HVAC's not kicking on near as often.
Yeah.
But I've seen, and another systemic thing that I've seen this year a ton is improperly installed condensate drain lines without traps, and people having their thermostat, the fan, set to on. And
I see that every year.
Oh my gosh,
probably 9 to 10 a year.
I've seen it more this year.
I
than
see it
I've
almost
ever
every
seen.
day.
Yeah,
the fan set to on. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Oh yeah.
Or circulate.
Yeah.
It's like,
And you just see these humidity levels just spiking inside where it's 70, I've seen 90 some odd percent humidity inside, and there's mold growing on their sofa and they don't know why. It's like, do you not feel how sticky it is?
Well, it's a
in here?
good detox because it allows you to sweat, right? You're just adding to that, right?
Yeah.
We actually talked about that on one of our podcasts. I have two different guys. Of course, you guys both know Nathan Copeland, right? So Nathan and I talked about that, and then his guru, basically, he's taken a lot of knowledge from. He's kind of like Yoda in the industry It's John Ellis, and he was here as well. He's a national guy.
Right.
So he popped through. He's a buddy of ours, and that guy is like brilliant. But he's the HVAC kind of mechanical negative pressure guru in the country. And so shout out to those guys, all right? They're top in the industry. But if you look up those episodes, there's some really good stuff about everything we're talking about as it relates to the HVAC and when people do that, what that does.
Yeah.
They don't measure on the backside. They just know the principle, right? But at the end of the day, we're trying to stay away from dew point, right? And so with these weather conditions, the way it's been, like I have never seen it as bad. I'm doing more moisture mapping this year than I've ever done.
Sure.
And we offer it. We've always had it. But it's never been like we have to do this to define that space, right? So it's just been interesting for us to see this year, which, again, goes to these other vulnerable areas. So anyway, I know I ponied that up, but the medical side. This goes to something we talked about a little bit whenever people were defining their sensitivities, right? We've discussed on this program ERMI a lot. I know basically where we stand on that is just the general sense. ERMI is an indicator. It's widely misused, I would say. It doesn't mean it's not valuable. It just means that it's not standing on all four legs.
Sure.
And if it's anything, it's the smallest piece of what a reason to call us, right? Potentially, right? So Emma comes into play with that, which we discussed a little bit off camera, and that's a little bit more of an accurate look at things. That you do get some other data that's beneficial, and I think there's a little bit more value in that. And there's different reasons why we do that as far as our investigation, but a lot of that is driven by the medical industry. So creating that tension between the medical side, understanding what people's needs are, to say, okay, there's a pain point, there's a reason they called us in the first place. What have you guys seen some examples of? Have you had any trouble or positive situations with a doctor, typically it's on the functional side, where they want to define things, and both in the body or in the environment, to their client. So the client's coming to them and said, my doctor said X. Is that a clear
Well, yeah, I mean, a lot of
question?
times it's the ERMI score. I don't know if they'll interpret it, but the score, they use the key to read the score. And they're like, okay, you need to move out of your house. I've had numerous clients say, hey, the doctor's telling us we need to move out of this house, or hey, you need to go live somewhere else until this is the ERMI score is reduced. And so yeah, I do run into that from time to time. Now that's a special client that even has the opportunity to sell their house and go to another place. But yeah, as we all know, that ERMI score it's not the end all be all. So there's a lot of nuances to that. The historical dust can affect that. So yeah.
context?
Yeah, I mean, have you even seen a quote unquote passing ERMI score?
I haven't.
I don't know if
And I think
I don't know if I ever have. Maybe one or two.
I've seen a 10 once.
Yeah.
At the end of the cleaning process,
Yes.
right at the end of a remediation, a really good remediation protocol,
Right.
and deep cleaning, just to test the end, almost like a PRV.
Yeah.
That's the only time I've seen it.
Yeah. Well, and it depends on how it's taken, too. Most of the time it's taken from the dust that's collected on the coil on the back of the refrigerator, or dust that hasn't been disturbed in a decade. And so it's a very historical look at a home. And I think that the utility in proper dust collection is going to get more accurate results, and that's kind of how I do my Emma sampling. And so it's like actively settled dust on, the tops of picture frames and the return vents and things of that nature that would be, things that would be actively floating in the air that you could potentially get exposed to. I think that's a little bit more accurate.
And the ideal situation with the Emma or maybe the ERMI is if the customer can deep clean the house, and then we can come in 2 weeks later.
How clean is it?
Yeah, go through deep clean that.
Yes.
Let's have some fresh dust.
I think there's some benefit there.
Yes.
That to me is more beneficial than anything on the front end.
Yeah,
Definitely.
let's not. There's no value. It's a data point, but go through, clean the entire house. Let's pick up some of that fresh dust and see what's getting put out by the environment.
Yeah, I agree. I think that would be more accurate and be a lot more informative of the actual potential toxic load that would be in their home.
Yeah, yeah. Very good stuff. Let's talk about the effects of fogging. Any opinions on that?
It's a quality means on the button up a job.
Yeah.
Once you've actually done remediation or a remediator has done remediation, they could do that to potentially drop mold spores out of the air, but it is not an effective means of remediation in itself. It's a Band-Aid over a gaping cut. It will just continue to, if you don't remove the source of the mold, it's going to recontaminate that environment if you just fog it.
You guys know Don Canar?
Yeah.
Yes.
Which I figured you did, but you know what he calls it? Ketchup.
Yeah.
Like on your fries or your burger. He's like, it's just covering stuff up.
Yeah.
Sure.
I love, he's always got the best little one-liners with that kind of stuff. We've had him on here too. But he's like, yeah, that's ketchup.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean because he doesn't do much of that, but he'll do it. It just depends on the scenario.
Sure.
He wants to scrub it, right?
Yeah.
He wants to do air scrubbing, which is the main, you have to remove, right?
I mean,
At the end
air
of the day.
scrubbing's that's only a piece of
A
the
piece of a
remediation,
process.
too.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's so much, and I'm not a fan of some means of mechanical removal of mold. I don't like soda blasting. I think that aerosolizes or embeds more mold spores or fragments into the wood materials.
Thank you.
I think that abrasive removal with sandpaper and wire brushes and then, proper biocides and damp wiping is the proper process, with the HEPA vacuum on the front end.
I just dealt
yeah.
with that last week, by the way, with a company in town that has yet to get my report. So
Yeah, to kind of piggyback on the fogging idea, it's something that can be done after remediation is done. It's not the remediation, as Cody hit on it. Removal of the source material is what needs to occur. And then if you want to get fogging done, that's great. In my remediation protocol, I have that as it's a discretionary. Like after these have been done, if the homeowner would like to have fogging done, yeah, do that in the home, in the crawl space, in the basement. But it's not the remediation, and it is an option.
Yeah, I don't think that's set in any of the IICRC standards. Like fogging is not part of it. It is completely optional.
yeah,
And should
at the
not
end
be
of the day,
required, yeah.
it's remediation is removal.
Yes.
And that, I think, is where that gets skewed and creates attention in several different angles, because everybody's like, well, fogging will kill the mold and fogging will do this, and it's magically just gone. Or whatever's in the air.
Well, I think that also piggybacks on improper assessments as well. So a quote-unquote assessor coming in and using only a particle counter to determine the potential, mold presence inside a building.
We've had that discussion before. That's a good point.
Is not accurate, and that definitely can scare clients into using, a service that may just be a fogging service that doesn't actually do anything for the client. And it's one of those pain points in the industry that I think, I wish that Tennessee would kind of be a regulated state to prevent that from occurring.
We'll see.
Yeah.
That's going to take some time.
It's going to be decades.
We could go down there and march down there right now and be like, let's make this happen.
Yeah.
People this is where the tension comes in from either the landlord side or typically landlord side or the construction, like the builder's side. Hey, I just want to check a box. Can you give me an air quality test really quick and just tell me what's in the air with a particle counter, blah, blah, blah. I can do that, but what are you wanting me to say because of that? All I can say is the particulates are at this level. And by the way, there's no particulate standard in the industry.
There's a use. It's a tool.
It's
and
a
there's
tool.
a use. And
It's
so
a diagnostic tool.
If you want to see, okay, there's a rather high load in this house, then let's take some air samples and confirm exactly what that is.
Correct.
I've yet to see actual, data that says that just because there's high particulate means there's high mold. There's no correlation between the two that I've found anyway. And with a particle counter, I would prefer you to use it. These are levels before remediation. These are levels after remediation, and then you could just generally see.
It's another diagnostic tool to find out, okay, how much stuff is in the air.
Yeah, and then you do your actual sampling.
Absolutely. Yeah. God bless. And so that's, I love that you even touched on the soda blasting too. There's certain, this is where that happens, that tension between the solution people, right? So the remediators or the restoration guys, which is a whole other thing, and us. That's a tension, right? Because if we've set the standards and they're doing a method that their distributor told them will work or kill or treat or whatever, and if they're not using the right language to the customer, I already know that they're not qualified to do the job. If they said they're going to treat something, or they said that they're going to just blanket coat something and say they're going to kill the mold, if I hear treat or kill coming from the client saying that that's what their contractor that they got, I'm already going to say, well, they don't know what they're doing.
I mean, that you just said something that made me think of remediators that use encapsulants. And so that's another method that I do not think is appropriate.
There's a time and a place as a last resort if you cannot remove and you cannot do, and it's, like MDF, right? And it's been waterlogged for a certain amount of time and they can't, or they're not willing to pull the brick off the house, or whatever. And there's no guarantee as long as we set that expectation. And they have tried 2 or 3 times, and they've got it down to a certain level. Maybe that is a potential. It still isn't part of a standard, right?
Right.
And it's still not. But like that may end up being a last resort for some people. But the standard should be followed all the way through, and then they have choices to make. It's like, okay, well, that's no guarantee. Either way, you got to stop the water.
Right.
But that in certain situations, that may be a last case scenario. But then by then, they don't want to do it because their bottom line's already gone, because they've already set the expectation with the client to say, we're going to bid this job for X. And they've been out there 2 or 3 times because they can't pass our tests, right? Because if they have integrity, they're trying to follow that process, and they're losing money at that point.
Yeah.
And then they may have to resort to that if the cost of the removal of whatever building material supersedes, and as long as that expectation is set, I've seen that happen. I'm like, it's what it is. If the money's not there, the money's not there. Now, do I say it's okay and it passes? No, they don't get a clearance. They get what they get.
Right.
But I've seen that happen. But when they come on the front end and that's the first thing they do and they don't remove it, and it's like, well, okay. And that happens with the big companies, I'll even say it, the Surf Pros, I don't mind saying that name. Just go ahead. So anyway, we've got a little bit more time. Let's get some, anything else that you guys said we wanted to talk about negative pressure real quick.
Yeah, I've seen that a couple of times, and that can be somewhat of a quandary. And to kind of explain the situation, that's where there's a pressure differential occurring inside of the house due to many different systems that may be drawing air into the wall cavities, which can pull moisture from be it the crawl space or the attic. Oftentimes, it's manifest by seeing around outlet covers, maybe around ceiling vents, maybe around light fixtures and whatnot, where there's actual mold or moisture around those. There can also be increased moisture on the drywall, as Barry hit on. And so that's something I'm familiar with, but there's a lot of people involved with finding a solution to that. Maybe a home energy expert to figure out the pressure, what's going on with the house. It could be the HVAC, it could be the vent hood, it could be the dryer. So it's an interesting scenario when you start to uncover what's going on. You're like, aha, that's what's going on here. And it's a situation that homeowners oftentimes, there's a big hill to climb with a solution for that. And so it's not good news to share with a homeowner. It's good to find that to help them out. But
how far of a diagnostic can you get to the root of the issue to be able to say, isolate, seal these areas up, or whatever
Yeah.
the scenario is causing it, because there's so many things involved.
And a lot of times we're a starting point for that. It's like,
Yeah.
hey,
Right.
here's an issue. You may need to reach out to an HVAC guy. You may need a home energy expert. And so I've seen it a number of times. But what are y'all's takes on the whole thing? What are y'all's different solutions for it? Or
Sure.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think we try to look at the home as a whole and see like how, like if it's a newer home, we can almost guarantee it's going to be a little bit sealed too tightly.
Yep.
And there may be a need for mechanical means of like a fresher makeup system. And I think that's
Yeah.
going to be more and more common the tighter and tighter we keep building houses. Because, if you look at a 50s home, it's got drafty windows, drafty doors, and it didn't really seem to have that negative pressure issue. And I'm seeing more and more negative pressure with these tightly built houses where they have the, really strong exhaust hoods over the ranges.
It's like a 747 in their house.
Yeah, and then leaving the bathroom exhaust fans on for an extended amount of time, and it's really going to drive having a fresher makeup system. I've seen homes so tightly built that they open the front door and they had the flue open on the fireplace, and it blew out the pilot light because it's so much air in through that flue. And so,
or your gas, your gas combustion, for your water heaters.
yeah,
Same thing.
Yeah,
Very common.
Yeah, seen that a lot. And I think that a solution is a fresher makeup system, definitely. Besides that, I don't have a whole heck of a lot of an answer, honestly.
Yeah, it's a quandary somewhat. Yeah.
We get into we go a little bit deeper on the diagnostic end for that. We haven't gone as far as like bringing an anemometer, and I have that equipment.
Yeah.
And every once in a while I'll break it out, like maybe once a year. But typically we'll do smoke tests.
Yes.
We'll do and we'll create pressure for, like I just did one. We did a video on a hood. So I'll turn the hood on. They got some smells coming from. I suspect an area, so we already know where it might be coming from. But to define it, we'll increase the pressure and make an active load for negative pressure, turn everything on, and then do a smoke test, watch it come. I'll do my thermal with it. Usually you get, I would say 95% of those scenarios you can get by just doing that.
Sure.
Use a particulate counter in the same way, particulates on one side and then create active, same kind of thing. But we'll get into doing that. You'll have pressure loads between the upstairs and downstairs. You'll have the load between the house and the outside. You'll have it between rooms when the HVAC kicks on. The other thing that we see a lot, which again goes to air quality, is these newer homes, which I think you and I have discussed. These fresh air makeup systems, I believe, are going to be more prevalent in the next 10 to 12 years, where it's going to be a standard, or it should be, my opinion. But how? It's not the what, it's the how, right? So what they're doing is they're bringing combustion air makeup, because especially if the house is maybe over 3,500 square feet, they're going to have some higher package units, and usually you're going to have gas, you're going to have combustion. Now they're required to bring in combustion air makeup, not fresh, right? Combustion air, they need oxygen, right? So so all that is a hole in the wall going right to the HVAC. So Tennessee ain't fresh. And you got all the humidity from outside, which the house is already under negative pressure. Now there's supposed to be a flap and all that, but I don't trust any of that. But as soon as that opens up for that combustion, when that vent hood turns on and you're bringing that 7047 into the house, you're sucking in, if it can keep up, whatever amount of humidity and whatever amount of debris is outside into a closed system that's supposed to be clean. Then you're delivering it, so it's managing the outside relative humidity on top of whatever's in there, plus whatever debris is coming in with it. So it's food and water, right?
Yeah.
Into a closed system that's probably already dirty anyway. So all you're doing is adding to the load of potential contaminants inside the HVAC system to yet be delivered into the house as soon as the HVAC kicks on, right? Yeah. So what we tell them all the time is call Nathan and put a filter in the front, have a certain type of antibacterial hose at a downward grade for any excess moisture, depending on how dew point happens. deliver that to a dehumidifier with a mixer. So you stay away from dew point when it's delivered into the system. So you're dehumidifying and having whatever level of filtration you can handle before you put that in. And that is what we believe is a fresh air makeup system. So you're controlling the food and the water.
Right.
Before it even gets delivered from the outside, now you truly are delivering fresh air and getting dilution for some level of dilution to help whatever you're bringing in. But when they have that combustion load, that's what we suggest.
Right.
But that's a big ticket.
That is. Well, but it's a smaller ticket than an ERMI, or not an ERMI, but an ERV.
Correct.
And ERV, I mean, I used to recommend those, but they're too complicated of a system and too expensive.
They're doing better at it now.
Yeah.
But not still, for our humidity, it can't keep up.
Right. And I think that the fresh air makeup with dehumidification is like, it's let's keep it simple.
Yeah.
We don't need to complicate things.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably the
Aprilier's
better
got a
route.
great unit. Santa Fe is actually coming back. They're better than they used to be. They've got a great unit for that. So anyway, just that goes right into all that pressure stuff. And to me, if you can get neutral at minimum, or at least slight positive pressure, that is the ultimate. And that's what I think every house is eventually going to go to, because we're not going to stop building for energy,
No.
right?
No.
That carbon footprint thing, that's where all the money comes from the government, to get those subsidies and all that. So anyway, we could go on and on about that, but let's do real quick. Give me a story. Something that you just like. There was this one time that you think the audience was like real quick, and we'll fly through a situation.
Yeah, I got one. It's not even mold related. It was initially supposed to be mold related. They hired me to come out to do an assessment, and the wife was concerned about this terrible odor that was in their bathroom. And I show up. I immediately smell sewer gases. They had a closet that was intended for a washer and dryer that had never been used. And there was no trap that had been installed on the washing waste line. And so they had sewer gases and sewer flies that were just filling up the space there. And it just, to test it, and she had 5 inspectors out there prior to me that could not pinpoint this. And I shoved a shop rag down it, taped over it, ran the exhaust fan, opened the doors and windows for just a few minutes, and then the smell was magically gone. Yeah, it's funny. I just think to myself, how did this get missed for so long?
Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah,
but yeah, that's a quick one. That was kind of fun.
Awesome.
Yeah, just talking about that negative pressure thing. One of my clients, they had this situation impacting their upstairs. The entire upstairs, which was probably 2,000 square feet, I'd say 90% of the walls had to be taken down. It was huge impact. So that was just this past summer where I saw that, and it was one of those situations where it's like, man, this is going to take a lot. There's a big hill to climb to get the resolution to this.
Yeah, yeah. We did one this year where it was a highly sensitized client, and we were talking about endotoxins and all that sort of thing. So we were testing for mold in the house. They have no idea, like, we don't know anything. Like, let's do the moisture mapping. We brought out the full assessment. We brought out our big guns out there, and we did just about every diagnostic outside of. Let's see, we didn't do anything VOC wise or formaldehyde wise. So, but we did do mycotoxins. We did the Instascope. We did the moisture mapping, and we did mold sampling. So we found some hits of some trapped moisture, different places. But this is why I love, again, that holistic approach about the building science, and say, okay, I can measure the load of anything. I can tell you what's on the dust or whatever, right? But if you don't look at the house whole, and don't go to those places, there's limits what I'll do in this coat as opposed to a different hat. But we were able to get to the whole crawl space, right? So we get to the end of the inspection. We get all our diagnostics done. I go to the end, and I'm like, should I go all the way to the end of that crawl space? It's a little bit skinnier, but there's some stuff in this cobwebs, and okay, I would get my stuff out. Like, I see some bugs flying around. I shouldn't see bugs.
No.
Not concentrated in a localized area. I see some water out there. I was like, okay, I got water and bugs. That's bacteria. That's not good. There's the sewer line. Fresh encapsulation, had been remediated, right, by one of those companies. And, we saw there was, an area to take a mold sample. So the short, I go over there, and everything's covered up, with the plastic up the walls. End cap didn't look bad, honestly, at all. But I see water. I'm like, where else could there be? Like, where's the water coming from? And I was like, and someone just told me to shake the line. That's that little spidey sense thing when you're like, hey, God, help me find the stuff for these people. They're sick. You're like praying, like, oh, I need to find the things. And I just kind of moved the line, and I could see right at that stem wall, it was completely apart. Like I could move it in and out and up and down. It was completely cracked right at the stem wall. So their sewer water a percentage was dumping out.
Wow.
In there, and they had sewer water on this brand new vapor barrier.
That's wild.
Yeah, but it was totally taped off and everything, and there's no way to see it.
Yeah.
And I went, there you go.
Yeah.
But it's just that little spidey sense that we try to have the awareness up and deduct those little things, but that was a big deal. But normally, testing, unless we're testing for bacterial,
right,
and then we have to go down that road. But it's just, there it is.
Yeah.
So those are the satisfying moments, I think, for us.
Totally. Yeah. I had one a couple months ago. There's a crawl space inspection, which I'll do occasionally.
Yeah.
And, there's no mold in the crawl space, but there's this gigantic pool of water in this lower corner. And I had a foundation and waterproofing guy there with me as well, just as a second set of eyes. And he could not pinpoint what the source of the moisture was, and I couldn't pinpoint where the source of the moisture was. We're like, it's clear water.
Yeah.
Doesn't look like it's coming from the ground. There was a pass leak in the garage, but there's no evidence of any water running down the vapor barrier or anything like that.
Yeah.
But there was fiberglass bat insulation on the wall, which I hate in a crawl space, but it was in a crawl space. But I saw where there was a PEX supply line going out the foundation wall for a hose bib. And I had him go out there. He turned it on, and I heard it running, and it was just running and running and running. But I saw no water inside. And then he was like, there was a hose attached to it, and there was a sprayer on the end of it, and no water was coming out of the sprayer. It was off. It was closed, but the water kept running.
Oh, yes.
So we had found out that it was a frost-proof hose bib, and so that collar, that sleeve that's within the CMU block was ruptured, and it was filling the CMU block, filling that cavity, and then pouring up and filling on top and beneath the vapor barrier.
Yeah.
It was.
Yeah,
that was a very satisfying find.
Was there any cracks?
Situation, huh?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was very much so.
Any cracks associated with it on the foundation that you saw?
No.
Interesting. Yeah, those are, again, great. We're using our eyes, we're using our ears. We're trying to have that awareness up because, again, so much of this is that spidey sense to say, okay, let's be practical too.
Yeah, just pull the thread just a little bit more and you'll be surprised at what you find.
Good note. Guys, we're over time. This has been awesome.
It's been fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for having us out.
Absolutely. Guys, check out Ryan and Cody. And thank you for watching. And we'll see you here soon.